viral event type of campaigns. Like, for instance, there's a remake of Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, that came out in 2013, where they staged a viral prank in a cafe in New York City,
Yeah.
where an actress looked like she was using telekinesis to throw furniture around, and it scared the hell out of the customers, but it was a way to market the movie.
Hello, and welcome to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Chasen, and like always, I'll be joined today by the team that brings you cupofteacritiques.com. Here, we'll dive deep into the productions and topics we broach on our website so you can decide for yourself if they're your cup of tea. Ready for a deep look with a deep brew? This week's topic, unconventional movie marketing campaigns. Cup of Tea Critiques is a family affair, and I'm here with my brother Chris, my mother Reba, and my father Terry.
Film marketing didn't just start with social media or even just the internet. It can be a little bit of a film history topic to see how marketing outlets tried to generate buzz before we had all these social media engines and algorithms to assist us.
And even going back to Psycho, I didn't realize how Psycho changed the landscape when it came to just how movies were presented in theaters. I mean, I remember the fact that they used to run them on a loop. And you could go into the theater in the middle of a movie and then watch it and then catch the beginning of it. And, as they said, it came up with the phrase that was coined, "This is where I came in." But yeah, that's interesting. Psycho changed that based on the content of the movie. Alfred Hitchcock wanted that it needed to be from the beginning to the end. It had to be watched from the beginning to the end and as one set.
Yeah.
Listen now to the heart of the policy.
I've suggested that Psycho be seen from the beginning. In fact, this is more than a suggestion. It is required.
And here is what Broadway saw. No one, but no one, will be admitted to the theater after the start of each performance of Psycho. The audience had been sold this concept. With it, they were sold on Psycho. Mr. Hitchcock tells you, as he told them, why.
This, of course, is to help you enjoy Psycho more. We really have only your enjoyment in mind.
I'll tell you what sort of generated my pitching this topic was a new film that's come out called Weapons, a new horror movie that's come out in theaters last week by New Line Cinema, directed by Zach Krager, who did Barbarian. The tagline that's on the posters and that's been used in trailers is, "Last night at 2:17 a.m., every child from the Mrs. Gandy's class woke up, got out of bed, went downstairs, opened the front door, walked into the dark, and they never came back." Which I think is, it's a lot of words to put on a poster, I think, but it kind of works. And one thing they did when they had the early screenings, like the Thursday afternoon through Thursday evening screenings, they had some of the initial screenings at 2:17, and I thought that was the screen time for them was 2:17, because I remember looking at it initially thinking, why would they have a movie start at such an odd time? And then it was like, oh, that's what the hook for the movie is that. And I think it's an interesting way to play off mystery, and it called to mind the fact that a lot of horror films are mysteries. They have a mystery element to them. You're trying to figure out what's going on, what's making people behave strangely or whatever it is. Outside of slasher films, which are pretty straightforward, a lot of horror movies have a mystery element to them. And so I think it's a clever thing to play on in your marketing campaign, specifically for horror movies, to play into that mystery element and get people curious. And so that was the genesis of the topic, I would say. But yeah, so I thought we could, especially talk about that, since so many independent films specifically are, a lot of them are horror movies, and they rely, and a lot of independent films rely on word of mouth as a way to generate interest, because they don't have quite the resources that studios do. So they need people, potential fans of cinema or fans of their movie to talk amongst each other and create excitement.
I find one of the most effective campaigns for drawing me into a movie is that kind of bit of what you were talking about, a bit of mystery or something that kind of piques your interest as to, what's really going on here. But they've got to be spot on with how they present that, because sometimes if it's too much of what's going on here, you kind of go, I don't know, it's too tough to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that depends on just how you time out your campaigns, relative to the release, so that you're not, if you extend too far
Yeah.
out, maybe you lose a little bit of that mystery or a little bit of that luster. I remember, for example, Cloverfield. I
Hmm.
don't remember exactly when they premiered the teaser trailer. It's New York, so it's a big city. I remember the trailer just kind of being, because it's a found footage film. So
Hmm.
you have this kind of rough footage, and then you have the head of the Statue of Liberty ending up on the street, and so it's just creating mystery right there, right then and there, and it doesn't have to tell you anything or ruin anything about it. So I think, yeah, to your point, just withholding enough information, but knowing exactly like what that exact the punchline, if you will, of it is.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
What is it? Is it coming this way? I saw it. It's alive. It's huge. No. Anybody see Jason?
I think fans are swayed by the effort. I think when you have some kind of creative way of marketing the movie, it can sway fans, to go see it, to want to go see it in a strange way. I mean, I think we mostly go to see movies based on how good we think they are, but you're also kind of like, well, they made the effort to do something creative, so I'm gonna make the effort to go see it.
To your point, Chris, I like how I think these lower budget, or the ones that don't have as high a budget on their marketing dollars, they have to be creative. And you're right. I think we do reward that effort by going and checking those things out. Timing is everything with those too, though. Like if the movie's coming out a year from now and you go ahead and you had, like, imagine seeing the Cloverfield teaser trailer 12 to 18 months before the movie comes out. By the time the movie comes out, it's kind of lost
Yeah.
its luster at that point. People have spent a lot of time investigating it enough to either debunk it or ignore it, or by the time it's released, we've just forgotten. So it's not going to work. So they have to be smart, not only on how they pick that one perfect moment to get to build the intrigue, but they have to be smart on the timing when they execute that marketing campaign. Cloverfield did a
Agreed.
really good job with that. I liked how Chronicle did theirs as well. I remember watching the video of the flying people, and we know now how they were able to execute that. But again, it was one of those like, whoa, wait a minute. That campaign was just intriguing, and it was done close enough to its release date where by the time it did come out, I was like, okay, I want to see exactly how we got to that footage.
I do think it depends what type of movie it is. I think that for independent movies, or for kind of the budget or found footage kind of stuff, I do think it benefits you to do it a little closer to the release date. Whereas for a big name director, or a big name, or a very bombastic kind of thing, like Christopher Nolan film, for instance, he has a movie coming out next year that they had a teaser trailer for when we went to see this Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We-
When we went to see the newer
Seven.
one, they had a teaser. It didn't really have a whole lot of footage, but I think because he kind of brands his movies as these big events and just very, a huge show, for him it kind of makes sense to put something out a year in advance, and get people excited about it, because that's in keeping with the kind of movies that he's putting out.
Generally speaking, I find that annoying when they put out something way too far in advance. It's always
Well,
kind of,
his box office sales say it works.
no, yeah, I agree with you that for some films that may seem to work, but it's always kind of something that's advertised a year in advance just seems like way too long to be putting feelers out about going to see a movie.
I was about to say the same thing. Sometimes I find it annoying when they put out a teaser, like 11, 12 months in advance of the film being released. They do this
Yeah.
great teaser that has generated this excitement, especially for sequels.
Yeah.
When I know there was another one coming, it's like, oh, they are going to do another one.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And then at the end of the teaser, it says coming, 18 months from now,
Yeah.
whatever date they put on. There's like, why are you telling me now? And so I find it frustrating. But to Chris's point, apparently it does work. At
Mhm.
least we know it's coming. Though we never got our Miami Vice teaser. We never got our sequel to Miami Vice.
Right.
But nonetheless, we do like, nor did we get our Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Yeah,
the
right.
US version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. But in any case, just as your dad said, it can get pretty annoying when they give you the teaser so far in advance. But the point is to give you what you need to anticipate this movie.
Mhm.
And so whether you realize it or not, I think you are putting this on your mental calendar. This is going to come, and I am going to be ready for it, even if that teaser annoyed you.
Yeah.
So
I think it depends on the style of movie as well as the status of said movie. So independent films, movies with lower budgets, they can't afford to do a year-long campaign, and they're very dependent on word of mouth and the buzz being at its peak by the time the movie is released. So they can't do something that's a teaser a year out. Whereas blockbuster films,
Mhm.
Big name directors, it's really easy. First off, they got the millions of dollars in the budget to do so, but in a lot of cases, we do want their films on our calendar in advance anyway. So, for example, I think about when Marvel did Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. It is frustrating to get bombarded with that stuff, but that really did, in this case, generate and just kept the buzz going for, I think it was like 14, 16 months before the movie finally came out when they first started doing that. We just saw the teaser for The Odyssey. The Odyssey
Mhm.
isn't coming out for like another year. The Odyssey is Christopher Nolan's next big movie, and it's not a new story, so to speak. Like, we know that book's been around for a while, but The Odyssey as a film in the current climate is very opposite of most of the things that are being released. So getting the buzz going a year in advance for something that's a little different, I think it's great because it contrasts all the superhero movies being released in July, and now we get to spend a year, building up that anticipation for when it finally comes out.
in addition to that, Brandon, it also gives us time to go back and read the books.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Mom. Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
you
all
might
right.
have to. You might need the whole 14 months to read Odyssey, from my understanding.
Yeah, you all are right though. Regardless of how I get irritated, I do put a mental note for movies like this one that, yeah, I'll be looking out for it.
Go
To
ahead.
your point, Chris, I think the only thing shorter than the Odyssey itself in terms of how long they're out on the water is reading the book itself, which it is a very fun adventure story to read, but it feels like it takes forever to get through. And I never understood why, because I always enjoyed the process. It just felt like it took forever to get to the end. But the movies, every movie version that's come out has been fun and exciting as well.
You describe it like it's
Yeah.
Charlie Brown talking about War and Peace, trying to read it over the holiday.
I've just had my whole vacation ruined, Linus. We're supposed to read War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and then write a book report about it. What a way to ruin a vacation.
I swear that's what it feels like. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we find some old pictures of myself trying to lug that book around, just trying to get through
In
it.
your
But
little
yes,
red wagon.
yeah.
Yeah. We should probably mention also the shock-based campaigns or the kind of viral event type of campaigns. Like, for instance, there's a remake of Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, that came out in 2013, where they staged a viral prank in a cafe in New York City,
Yeah.
where an actress looked like she was using telekinesis to throw furniture around,
Mm-hmm.
and it scared the hell out of the customers, but it was a way to market the movie.
Oh my god!
That sucks. I'm sorry.
You just ruined all of my stuff.
Get some napkins, clean it up, it'll be fine.
Fine, there's coffee inside of my computer. You know what? Just get away from me. Just get away from me.
The Grudge, a Japanese remake they did in 2004 of a horror movie, where they left these like creepy dolls, in these kind of public spaces to creep people out. Stuff like that, shock kind of marketing campaigns, and kind of an offshoot of that is festival reactions, because a lot of these premiere at festivals, and sometimes they'll use these kind of stories about how this movie, like the audience reaction to movies. I don't know if they're all true or not, but sometimes people walked out, or people threw up, or something like they kind of try to they play up how shocking this movie is, to obviously create curiosity for people who have the stomach for that, because the people who don't either aren't going to go see it or are going to go see it and not like it and then give it a negative review. So that's another form of, it's an offshoot of what we're talking about, just kind of shock based marketing.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity is another one of those films, Chris, where they kind of used reverse psychology in their ad campaign. They showed a trailer that consisted of a screening of the movie Paranormal Activity, and they showed the audience's reaction to what was happening on screen. And the audience was screaming and grabbing onto one another. They were just incredibly frightened. Their comments over that trailer: "This is a movie that is too scary to see." And that is one part of their ad campaign. The other is they promoted the idea that the movie was just so scary to see that you had to demand that movie be shown at a theater near you. And so the people had to actually go on social media and demand that movie be shown at a theater near them. And it was highly successful. And I thought that was very interesting how they kind of used this reverse psychology thing to promote the film.
Jesus, looks like something bit you.
It's not the house, it's me.
You cannot run from this. It will follow you.
I'm in control.
You're not in control.
What's happening to me?
This thing left a message.
If it's not a ghost, what is it?
Yeah.
I thought that was genius to
I thought
have
it was
fans reach out and say, "I want this movie in my town," immediately. Like, I thought that was genius. Another movie that kind of did a good job of getting in your head too was the marketing campaign for Independence Day, when they had all of those newscasts supposedly covering, the alien invasion, to the point where you had people calling in worried about the truth of the matter. And I thought those were very well executed. I didn't watch all of them. I laughed at myself because I was so active as a child. I actually missed all of these. So good thing I was an active child, because otherwise I'm probably freaked out worrying if it's the alien invasion and getting my metal helmet and all that stuff, trying to make sure we're safe.
Yeah.
So, but I thought that was another excellent campaign.
That's reminiscent of the radio campaign for War of the Worlds. Yeah.
The story,
Yeah.
War of
Yep.
the Worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
Orson Welles
did it, yeah.
Orson Welles was telling the story of War of the Worlds about an alien invasion, and that was radio. He was
Yeah.
telling the story over the radio, and he told it in such a compelling way that people really thought, we were being invaded.
Yeah.
And so now this was the visual version of that, effectively. The Independence Day's campaign was a visual version of that. And it was done quite effectively. I agree with you, Brandon.
You're watching live images of widespread panic throughout the former Soviet Union. Phones are out. Airports are closed. We have one report from a woman in Little Odessa who was talking to her fiance when a horrendous rumbling started. Seconds later, the phone went dead.
We have reporter Tim Popovich on the phone right now. Tim, the question, what is the mood there in Little Odessa?
I mean, it was done very, very effectively. It seemed, I didn't see this in real time. And by that, I mean that I don't remember when they advertised the film in that way. And so I don't recall any conversation around people's reactions to those campaigns. But based on what we read, people did react to it as if this was really happening. So it was quite the effective campaign. independent films or independent filmmakers do not have the budgets typically to do a lot of the marketing, the types of marketing that we've been talking about. I think just something that seems as simple as the Smile campaign, for example, where they set someone in the stadium to smile. Well, that's a ticket you had to pay for. You didn't do it at just one event. So you did it at a lot of these events. Well, that's pretty costly. I imagine they had to travel there, or you certainly have to pay the actor or actress along with buying the ticket because it's a prime seat. So you paid a lot of money for that ticket. And a lot of the budgets for a lot of independent film are really pretty tight. And so even something that seems as simple as that, is going to require, it just requires an awful lot of money. And so I tend to think a lot of indie films are sticking to digital as much as they can. They're going to be going the way of press kits. They're not going to even be doing something like going to Comic-Con and dropping, fake $100 bills off with painted jokers on there. And I just wonder how many of these really creative campaign ideas are available to independent filmmakers.
At the largest comic book convention in the world, Why So Serious, a campaign to promote the upcoming Batman film, The Dark Knight, started with a dollar bill. Over $10,000 of them, altered to say Why So Serious. WhySoSerious.com was a website. It gave GPS coordinates. Have a buddy online, it said, and it was counting down. Several hundred people gathered across from the convention center in San Diego at 10 a.m. Their friends at computers told them the website said to look up.
And I mean, it was technically backed by Paramount, so it's they had
that ain't that independent.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think, and I want to just fit this in here, that the way in marketing circles they break this down is by there's paid media, earned media, and owned media. And the paid media is kind of posters, trailers, ad spots, billboards. Those are the things that fall into paid media, which is basically, they cost the marketing team money essentially. And earned media is a lot of what we've been talking about, like word of mouth, reviews, social media reactions, memes, that kind of stuff. And I think maybe the example we're probably most familiar with is just actors going on talk shows or doing interviews in the lead up to a film's release. And then owned media is kind of we used to see on DVDs a lot, very the behind the scenes footage or photos of. Occasionally you'll see photos. I would think this would fall on the owned media. You'll see like set photos of especially if a character really had to transform their body, and it's like, well, see how huge this dude got for this movie, or see how, or whatever it is, or see how, basically the Christian Bale effect, right? See what Christian Bale did to his body for this movie, because that kind of stuff. So that's how they generally break it down: paid media, earned media, and owned media. And the Smile example, that I guess you can call that paid media because they're buying the ticket there, but that story was getting it was getting in the local news. They were doing like news segments about it. Oh, this actor went to this game and smiled at, behind home plate. So that those news releases would be earned media as a result of your paid media.
I'm seeing something.
Anyone watching the Mets or Yankees on Friday may have seen something unusual behind home plate.
Yeah, in each game, there was somebody in the crowd staring really intensely into the camera, smiling. It's smiling at me.
Yeah, I think this all goes back to what you were saying, Chris, is that it's marketing teams have to be creative, and we will reward that creativity. And it's more about finding exactly the right button to press to generate that buzz, whether it's independent or big or blockbuster. But independent films are way more dependent on that, no pun intended, but they are way more dependent on a good buzz than a blockbuster film, because you slap Christopher Nolan's name on it, the marketing could be crap, but we know we like Christopher Nolan films, so we'll check it out. You slap the name Jurassic Park or Jurassic World on it, we always go back to the first time we saw this film. So we're going to catch each one of these sequels, or we're more likely to catch them whether the advertising on it was good or not. But you do need that perfect viral moment or whatever tether they can get to that's going to make the casual fan pay attention to them and then end up coming to the theaters to support their project. I think of not that it was an independent film, but I think this also applies to remakes in certain cases, because I think about the movie It, and Chris, you already mentioned Carrie. Those are two movies that when they first ran through, everybody's familiar with them. So how does this remake generate new buzz to make people be interested in it? The Carrie incident where they faked the telepathic powers, that's a great viral moment that they just needed one of those to get people going, okay, I this isn't just a remake now that I have to go see. I have to go see how they executed this because that was crazy. It, on the other hand, they tied the red balloons to the sewer grates. I remember seeing one of those and going, I knew immediately what movie they were advertising. And I also remember feeling very nervous. Like, I know this isn't real, but I'm going to go ahead and get off the street now. Like, come on, Belle, we got to go inside. Like, that's so... those movies, those moments, like the advertisers have to do a good job of making that one buzz moment that's going to make you come out. And I do love when they get creative enough to make me go, maybe I should pay attention to this, even if it is a horror movie. I'm probably not likely to go see it.
I think it's interesting too because it's you're kind of you're taking it out from behind the screen, kind of like, I mean, the smile when I guess you're still watching TV, but we're, I think, desensitized to a lot of marketing. We're on screens, so frequently, and we're being marketed at so frequently that it's just it's going to blend together. So when somebody can like bring it into the real world, like tying balloons to sewer grates, or even appearing at a baseball game, even if we're watching it on TV, it's still kind of bringing it out of that traditional kind of marketing sphere and into the real world. So I think it sticks out in your mind. You remember it, and it does make you go, okay, maybe I will see that.
Not to switch gears too much, but a slightly different marketing campaign. The whole Barbenheimer thing, I thought that was an interesting take because you had two different studios that sort of combined to put this together because they had movies coming out at the exact same time. And whereas normally they would have been competing, they decided to kind of merge their marketing campaign and say, hey, make this a double feature event.
I think it worked because those movies are so opposite in tone.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were, you could say they were competing for box office space, but they're so different. You can actually pitch it as a double feature, like you can balance one out with the other.
Right. That was what one of the readings was talking about. It's the fact that they were so different that kind of campaigns work for them. Whereas, you could pitch it as they're not, to your point, competing for the exact same type of audience. But I guess you've got such a mix of people. You could say, yeah, I'm going to see this. And if this other thing is playing at the same time, we'll stick around and do it as well.
They call that counter programming too, apparently, is the kind of industry term for it, counter programming.
It makes sense too, though, because while they're not the same type of movie by any stretch of the imagination, I think both companies recognize they are marketing against a person's budget. We're trying to see one movie a month, but we have these two movies that we want everybody to come out to see. So they recognize, like, rather than fight for the same dollars in one's pocket, let's convince people that it's worth it to increase the budget this month and catch both of our films. And obviously it worked.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good at kind of, to some extent, making it seem like a family affair. Large groups of people, whether they were nuclear family or not, sort of gathered together and went to see these two movies.
Not just increase the budget, but perhaps even expand their cinematic taste for film. As Chris pointed out, and as you guys pointed out, those movies are just at opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of their tonal differences. And so if people are, have much more of a taste to go for something that's, light and fluffy, so to speak, like Barbie, and it's not a criticism of it, but just it is a much lighter tone of movie. versus Oppenheimer, which I think the consensus would be that it is quite the opposite. It's quite a heavy movie. And so if people typically have a taste for one but not the other, that kind of marketing campaign that says see both of these movies when you go kind of tells, okay, I'll give it a try. And so there's the potential to actually expand their tastes, not just this time, but perhaps going forward.
So,
well, maybe. Well,
but,
okay.
But the way they marketed it made us go, you know what? I'll stomach your movie because you'll stomach mine. Like they made us open up the idea of what we would do together. So thank you.
Okay, just the gamification of your movie or whatever world you're building, which Harry Potter's obviously the easiest because they Harry Potter and Jurassic Park just beat us over the head with all the toys and books
Avatar.
and games and everything that they released. But a couple of other examples were like Inception built an online maze, and they had these kind of dream related websites to bring fans into it. Tron Legacy kind of did these scavenger hunts. So you have that as an additional. Ex Machina had basically a fake dating profile for Ava, who was the robot in the movie, the humanoid robot in the movie. And so I think those are the kind of gamification of your movie or using these kind of events or these taking it into a different space. It's another interesting way to if you don't want to stage an event or use kind of audience reactions, it's another way to kind of market your movie.
If you have the money for it,
these are generally bigger budget type of movies.
Yeah. I think about Avatar, for example. They talk about how Avatar partnered with Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola produced these cans of soda that had the codes that unlocked an AR environment online. I mean, that's pretty sophisticated. And you name me one indie film, the average indie film would not likelihood of partnering with Coca-Cola, first of all. Really, they'd be happy to just get a partnership with them. Secondly, to be able to get them to customize a can that unlocked an AR environment online. The other thing Avatar did was, to Chris's point, they commodified that film beyond the cinema world to toys. And so McDonald's they partnered with McDonald's, who created Happy Meal toys, for example. They had a video game. They partnered even with television shows. They partnered with Bones, for example, that did some spiel on Avatar. And so these are gigantic, these are films with just this ridiculously huge budgets. And that's not just to make the film, budgets for marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are budgets that all filmmakers just, they just salivate over. I mean, so that is just another extreme of marketing. And I keep going back to, so what are the options available to independent filmmakers who typically don't have that available to them, those kinds of budgets available to them, and they are forced then to stick to the digital world. What digital options do they have for promoting their film? Because they're not going to partner with Coca-Cola and get special cans made. They're not going to be able to partner with McDonald's and have, toys made, Happy Meal toys made. I mean, they may be able to build online games, but now they need the staff to build those games online. The best they can probably do is websites. Posters, of course, they will make it a point to do. I think that's a default. You have to have posters. And then, of course, they need to spend money on trailers. They probably won't bother with teasers, which are the ones that come like a year in advance. But trailers, which come maybe 2 or 3 months in advance, that they'll definitely do. And so I just think about what options are available to filmmakers that don't have a lot of money in their budget.
Interestingly enough, one strategy might be something. I know this movie had probably a fairly decent budget because it was backed by Warner Brothers, but The Matrix used a question. They went with, what is the Matrix? And that sort of spurred a lot of buzz around that. People were doing searches and whatnot. So that's one avenue that independents could probably do, is to find some way to pique people's interest with some sort of question or something along those lines. I thought that was an ingenious way of, sparking buzz about the movie.
How did they promote that question? social media or television? Because if it's television, that takes indie out of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was kind of posted everywhere. It was on their poster, their original poster. And then it was, I mean,
yeah,
they had a high budget because it was advertised during the Super Bowl. But
Super Bowl, right?
but
Right.
I was, Dad, you kind of stole that one from me as well. But I'll get back to that point. But the point is that yes, they had a high enough budget, but the bigger thing too, Mom, is that if you're walking down the street and saw the poster or you saw the billboard, it always had that "What is the Matrix?" or it said "whatisthematrix.com," leading you to go, I need to get to my web browser and figure out what this is about.
Good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
I worry about the movies we don't hear anything about. The movies we never get the opportunity to have any intrigue about or to get even a little bit interested in. Your dad and I today went to see The Knife, which was a very, very good independent film, quite intense, about a woman found invading a house and things transpire. And now there's some things that they have to deal with the police as a result of this. It is a very, very good film. And yet I didn't know anything about it. I wouldn't have known anything about it if Chris hadn't called me yesterday and said, hey, Mom, there's this movie called The Knife. And yeah, so your dad and I made it a point to go see that film. Another is 40 Acres. I hadn't heard about 40 Acres either. And your dad and I went to see that last month. And again, it was a very, very, very good film with a lot of sociological implications. As a matter of fact, I was very happy to have seen that film. And it's unfortunate that it's a film that I hadn't heard anything about. And I don't remember how I came upon that film, but it isn't because I saw an advertisement. But the point I'm trying to get to is that this is the cost of a lack of marketing budget for independent films, for a lot of independent films, is we're missing some really, really good cinema. So
I do think for filmmakers, whether I don't know if we're talking about, independent and as in, we still have somewhat of a budget, or independent as like, I'm a student or I'm fresh out of college, or, I'm fresh out of film school trying to make something on my own, because I think those are two different levels of indie.
Yeah.
But
neither has money though.
Well, I mean, the indies might be doing okay. I mean, A24 still falls in indie in the indie category.
They got a week left of that. Come on now.
But I really think though it highlights the aspect, going back to the filmmaker themselves. It's like, know your hook, know what it is about your project that makes it kind of stand out, or that you can kind of use to create that mystery. So I think really knowing, and if you're trying to pitch it for investors, you already kind of have to know that. So take whatever you used in your pitch to get funding for it in the first place and try to curtail that into a low budget marketing campaign. So I think knowing the hook of your project and knowing your exact budget for marketing are probably the two most important things. And then you could just try to find resources that will, work within your budget. I mean, there are specifically independent marketing agencies, and I mean, for just a quick resource to look some of them up, if you go to la411.com, you can look up movie, and TV marketing companies, and some of them will be more amenable to a low budget. So that's what I would say. Just know exactly what's going to get people, what's going to create mystery, and know how much money you're working with and who's willing to work within that.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. Honestly, we could go on and on like we do at our dinner table, but we appreciate you figuring out your cup of tea along with us. Make sure you rate and follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Also, leave a comment and share a marketing campaign that caught your attention. You can stay in the loop on all things COTC by subscribing on our website at cupofteacritiques.com. You can also find us on Facebook, check out our Instagram at Cup of Tea Critiques, and on Letterboxd at COT Critiques. For Reba, Terry, and Chris, I'm Brandon. We'll see you next week with another Deep Look with a Deep Brew.